This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
All right, let's get back in here on Diamond Conversations, being brought to you today and powered here on the Place to Be Nation podcasting network, a part of the Place to Be Nation pop family. If you didn't know by now, my name is Ian, and every single week we sit down to have a Diamond Conversation about something going on in the world of baseball. And this week we take a comedic turn of sorts as we welcome in a comedian and longtime commiserating Met fan. Right alongside us is the one and only Mr. Steve Hofstetter. Thanks for joining the program today.
Thanks for having me.
Well, here we are.
Well, happy Bobby Bonilla Day to everybody.
Can I how many Bobby Bonilla Day texts you've gotten?
What?
I've gotten about 7 Bobby Bonilla Day texts so far. Anybody else?
I get a ton of them, and I get a ton of stupid people on Twitter not understanding that Bobby Bonilla Day is good for us.
Yeah.
Like, Bobby Bonilla, that contract led to us being able to get Mike Hampton, which led to the playoffs. Mike Hampton leaving led to David Wright. So whenever anybody says Happy Bobby Bonilla Day as like an insult, that to me is like someone saying, hey, who scored more points in the fourth quarter of the Mets game? It's like, you know that little about baseball.
Hey, I also love the Bobby Bonilla Day because it gives you a chance to go back and watch the clip where he gets in Art McFarland's face outside his locker and wants to show him the Bronx. So that's one of my favorite clips. So that's how I celebrate today.
Weirdest thing about that contract, though, was not how it was structured, that it was the second time the Mets signed Bobby Bonilla.
Exactly.
That was the way. It's not like that was, that's left over from when he was like the highest priced free agent in the game and the Mets went after him. It's like, no, he was a problem with the team on and off the field. And then they're like, let's roll these dice again. Let's see how this goes.
And he leaves in a blaze of glory playing cards in the locker room during the playoff loss. So his Mets run literally goes from, the highest paid free agent of 1991, 1992 to then playing cards with Ricky Henderson in the dugout as they're getting beat in 99. So good job, Bobby Bo.
Absolutely. I think, although when I think Blaze and Met, I usually think Vince Coleman, but that's just me.
That whole team, that whole entire team, you run down the line, the Bleach and the Super Soakers, David Cohn and the bullpen, Bobby Bo, Vince Coleman. I mean, it was a comedy of errors, that 92 team. The worst team money could buy.
Yeah, that was rough.
So here we are. It's not only Bobby Bonilla Day, it's the kickoff of spring training, summer camp 2.0. What a day to be a Met fan. Are we optimistic now? Do we kind of just want to see baseball? Do we have an opinion? Where are you at with this part 2 that we got today?
I do want to see baseball, but I also kind of don't care, because as much of a baseball fan as I am, there's other things going on right now. It's one of these things that baseball would be a great distraction from it, but also we shouldn't necessarily be distracted from it. And players are testing positive, not for steroids now, but for coronavirus. Right. And so, I mean, some probably both, but it's just one of these things where it's I'm really excited about it, but at the same time, I just hope everybody's going to be okay.
Yeah, and isn't it weird, too, that whole entire time, that there was no baseball, and even before all the talks of what was going to happen, we didn't hear about anybody from any camp, getting sick, or, hey, this guy, whenever the season starts, he's going to be out. And it's the second the announcement came, that's when we started to hear more and more, and you listen to a WFAN sports update, and it's literally it's a medical sheet of who's got what, how long they've had it, who's feeling better, and it's kind of crazy, all these X factors have to work out, and now we've only got 3.5 weeks before the first game is going to start, and who knows who's going to be there.
Well, I don't know which side kept that stuff secret, but for sure someone kept that secret for the negotiations. I'm not sure which side it would have benefited more, but there definitely were players who were sick beforehand, and it just didn't get out because it probably would have hurt negotiations, because a lot of people would have called for there not to be a season.
Yeah, there was a rumor right before everybody kind of, was canceled. All the camps were canceled, that there was something going around the Met camp, and that just kind of unceremoniously went away, and nobody ever talked about it again. But I mean, you got to think. I think Charlie Blackmon was the first name I know I had heard after they had agreed to start the season. And it's almost like, do you say like, oh, wow, well, he got it out of the way, so he's going to be good to go for the rest of the. We don't even know this yet. So it's all unprecedented. Every case that comes out, we don't know what to think. We're kind of like, what do we do next?
Yeah, he got it out of the way. Now he's only very susceptible to blood clots, which will prevent him from running, which is Charlie Blackmon's whole thing. So it's one of these things that you really hope everybody's okay. And we've got a revolution in the middle of a pandemic. And as much of a baseball guy as I am, and as excited as I am for the possibility of it, it's just not my focus.
Yeah. Yeah, when Charlie Blackmon can't go first to third on a ball hit down the line, the first guy that's going to be screaming for his benching, it's going to need a medical report. It's unprecedented. Never thought we'd be this far, but we'll see what happens. We're still a few weeks away. Who knows if there'll even be a season? But at least we've got that optimism of summer camp, aka spring training 2.0, starting today.
Yeah, and there are going to be a lot of records set this year for least runs given up, for least runs scored, for least hits.
Yeah.
Like it's how do you even quantify the season? It's going to be very, very interesting.
And it's Jake too, Jacob deGrom, who's been the recipient of no run support and no help, and how many no decisions over the last few years. Like, what's he gonna have? Like, is his 5-0 record gonna finally be like, all right, well, yeah, he only had X number of starts, so he looked great on paper, so he might be able to live up to some of those Cy Young numbers this year, but in a shortened season.
Well, it is whatever it is going to be ridiculous. If you've seen, I don't know if you've seen any of those statistics where they show like, here's what has happened in the past in a 60-game span and how like ridiculous some of the numbers might be. But we just have to take this as I would say it sucks because this year as a Mets fan, it sucks because the Mets actually looked like they had a good shot this year. Like they looked really good on paper. Young core coming back. Second half last year was wonderful. But at the same time, what about the Dodgers to lose 2 World Series, 2 teams that most likely cheated them out of it, and then they go and trade for the possibly best player in baseball for a 1-year contract and then have him for 60 games? It's ridiculous.
Unbelievable. Shame, too.
Yeah.
Steve, so let me ask you. So, you and I talked years ago when I worked at Rare, and one of the things that we talked about was, kind of your approach to content creation and, what individuals and brands can kind of do, to sort of fill the void. Did you see anything you liked about how some of the teams and players were interacting with their bases when there was, nothing going on in the world of sports the last few months?
Not necessarily, but I did see a great deal that I liked when it came to players standing up for Black Lives Matter and against police brutality.
Yeah.
And I think that for the first time, MLB started looking like the NBA in letting its players talk. Like one of the reasons the NBA is on top is because they market the players as personalities and they allow the players to develop their own fan base. They're not just someone wearing a uniform. And whether it was the league or the teams deciding to, or whether enough players just said, forget this, I'm on my own and I'm going to do this. I respected a lot of the messaging that came across.
And you think that that's kind of, more indicative of the modern player, people who have grown up, not only with social media, but obviously in, everything that's happened in the world over the last, 4 years, 8 years. Do you think we'll just continue to see more of that?
Yeah, absolutely. And, so I used to do a podcast where I would interview former Major League ball players. And because of that, I'm friends with a bunch of them on Facebook. Now, some of these are guys I've interviewed. Some of these are guys I've never met. But most of them are people who played when I was growing up as a fan in the 80s. And seeing their social media feeds, it is so ignorant and terrifying. There is so much of like, COVID's a hoax and there are no bad policemen and black people are making this up and like all this stuff in their feed. And it's crazy for me to unfriend people whose baseball cards I used to collect and, to just be like, I don't want to hear from this guy anymore. Whereas if you look at the younger generation, I think the younger generation is a lot more in tune to kind of what's going on in the world. And I think that is a shift in how someone becomes a professional athlete. And who becomes a professional athlete. I think there's been a huge shift in the last decade.
Absolutely. And I'll shout out the Mets own Marcus Stroman, who, as a fan, just following his feed, he's a player that I always liked. And now, whether it's things that him and I agree with, politically, or just sort of how he approaches his life, the guy seems awesome.
Yeah, there's sometimes, I've been following Stroh since when he was a Blue Jay, and sometimes he'll tweet something and I'll be like, this is ridiculous. And then sometimes he'll tweet something and I'm like, this is awesome. But that's what makes up a human being. And like, we can't expect to agree with everything somebody says. And, to be, like, look, I think most of what Trevor Bauer says is ridiculous. But at the same time, I really enjoyed watching him go up against Aubrey Huff and Kurt Schilling. That was so much fun.
Yeah.
And so if these guys are willing to have a little fun, let their hair down, and be a human, I think it's going to be good for the league.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and you see, too, like Doug had mentioned, the guys that grew up in this social media age, like, they know how to use it and use it to their benefit. And what's funny about what this weird season we've got coming has to offer is that there's no beat writers that'll be in locker rooms and following these guys. So now they're going to have to rely on the comments made on social media to really get the true story. Because whatever they say, if the team puts a guy in front of a Zoom call with 35 beat writers, you're just going to get a guy sitting in front of a camera talking. When you're basically going to have to go after the game to see what he really thought about, this at bat, or this strikeout, or this missed call. And to me, that's where social media is like the strongest tool some of these players will have now as it relates to their careers, because we get to hear the real them. And that is like the NBA. And I never thought baseball would get to that point.
Yeah. And, a lot of it's still not there, but it's closer, which is nice. And there are some teams, years ago, I was talking to the Red Sox about their social media. And, they were talking about how, like, they wanted to beef up their social media. And I'm looking at their Twitter and I'm like, all you're doing is posting flyers. You're just posting advertisements. You have no personality. And they were like, well, because they wanted to talk to me because I was a comic, but they didn't want to take any chances. And that's, and to the Red Sox credit, they've changed a lot since then. But it was interesting to see, whereas teams like the A's jumped on it early and they were like, oh, if we have personality, people will talk about us. Whereas there are some teams that are still in that same corporate buttoned up, just don't say anything that offends anybody. And therefore you end up offending a lot of people because you offend people who want you to talk.
Right. Yeah, I could go without the Nats, though. The Nats are they make me a little nauseous with the stuff that they post. So I could go without the Nats rubbing it in every 5 seconds.
Well, but that's also because you're a Mets fan. Like the same way that, like, look, I couldn't stand Bryce Harper, but one of my best friends is a huge Nats fan, and he made a good point to me. He goes, if Bryce was yours, you'd love him.
Oh, of course.
Absolutely.
Like, yeah, he's a trash talking idiot. Of course we'd love him. Like that's you love it when it's your side. And so I try to appreciate that stuff. Like, look, if the Phillies or the Braves or the Nats ever, burn the Mets on social media, if it's a good burn, props to them. We'll get them back. Yeah, absolutely. You gotta
get them back where it counts.
Part of being a sports fan is appreciating when the opposing team pulls an amazing double play on you. Like, you still have to be like, hell of a play. Like, if you can't see that, whenever I'm at a game and say, oh, remember games? That was fun. Whenever I'm at a game, and there's a great play and there's a bunch of fans who, he was safe. And it's like, shut up. It was a great throw. It nailed him. He's out. We'll get him next inning. Like, watch the game.
Sounds like Yankee fans now.
I usually feel like that, but I was at the game last year where the Nats came back against the Mets for like 8 or 9 runs against Diaz in the 9th, and Kurt Suzuki hit the 3-run home to win the game. I don't know if Kurt Suzuki was a Met. I don't know whether I would root for Suzuki. I think that's where you draw the lines with me.
Don't root for Suzuki. I'm still trying to forget that game, Doug. I don't want to talk about that game.
He joined the club.
There are certain players that, like, so my second favorite team is the White Sox. In the 90s when the Mets were garbage, in the early 90s, and you had to root for something if you were to watch baseball, I kind of fell in love with that, Frank Thomas and Robin Ventura, who eventually came to us, which was great. And, Blackjack and Alex Fernandez. And it was just such a fun team to watch. And in that time, Albert Bell, who I disliked more than any other player in the game, came to the White Sox. And I had to make that decision of, like, what do I do now? Like, I can't stand this specific guy. And now he's wearing a uniform that I like. Like, what do I do? And so what I did is I rooted for him to get out every at bat with the White Sox batting well around him, because that's I could not bring myself. There are certain players that I cannot bring myself to root for, no matter what uniform they're in.
Definitely, I can respect that. And as a Met fan, we usually have guys that we root for that nobody else on planet Earth knows of, and we have guys that we beloved as all-time great players that if you go to if you go to Philadelphia, they've never heard of who they are. So let's talk about you as a Met fan. So I've done some research. I've seen how baseball connected you and your dad, which is like amazing, and we can relate to that obviously. But what is it about the team itself that keeps you coming back for more? Because obviously they can pound you, and then they can give you those big Met hugs that we all love and make you feel like $1 million, but that's a little far between.
That's the craziest thing about being a Met fan. A lot of people, they'll be like, oh, the Mets and, like lovable losers. And it's like, no, the Mets are a sine curve. The Mets are every 10 years, they're great. It's one of these things where like you go and you look at it, you go, okay, World Series, they won the World Series in 69 and they were in it in 73. And then they sucked for a while. But then, you got 12 years later, 85, last series of the season, they almost made it. And then 86, they win the World Series. They've got the borderline dynasty that should have been a dynasty for a couple years. And then they suck in the early 90s. And then what happens? Late 90s, they're fantastic again. You watch them go to the playoffs in 98 and 99. They go to the World Series in 2000. And like, that's what they do, and then a couple years they suck. And then 2006 happens, and then it wasn't until 2007. 2007 was the first time they were supposed to be good and didn't make the playoffs. That was the first time they collapsed. Yes. Like other teams collapse all the time. The Mets are not were not a collapsing team until 07, 08. And if you look at it, even the last couple years where they didn't make the playoffs, they were a great second half team.
Right.
They were a team that would beat expectation. And so what keeps me going to the Mets is that little bit of dessert they keep dangling in front of me. Eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables, eat your vegetables. Here's some ice cream. And like every 5 to 10 years, there's some ice cream, and that, it keeps you in it.
Go in June, go on vacation. Don't watch a game in June. Just forget about it. The All-Star break's coming, but afterwards, we swear it's going to get better. But you're exactly right.
But that's what was amazing about 2006, because it was wire to wire. They were first place the entire season. Yeah. They were not supposed to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs. They did. And that series against the Cardinals, the Mets rotation was held together with duct tape and a prayer.
Oh my gosh.
And they still almost won. And like that was. And that's what it is to be a Mets fan. I don't understand the people who just they drop a team because they're losing, because then it doesn't feel good when they win. What's the benefit of that? Like, I tried as the kid of a Brooklyn Dodger fan. When the Nets moved to Brooklyn, I was like, well, I got to become a Nets fan. It's not like my Knicks fandom is going to stop me. It's not like I've enjoyed being a Knicks fan for a decade. And when I tried to root for the Nets and I tried to become a Nets fan, and I couldn't. I don't have it in me to switch teams. Like, I couldn't do it. I was finding myself looking up the Knicks scores. I was finding myself, even though the Knicks sucked, I was still concentrated on them because that's what I grew up with. I don't know how to switch teams.
It's tough, and you're in, so that's the bad part. So who is it? Who's the first guy that you took to as a favorite Met player?
My first real favorite player was Greg Jeffries, what's amazing about that
very nice.
is he and I have become good friends. I literally was texting him earlier today. Like, we ended up working on a project together, and I wore his number in Little League. Like, it's crazy. But because of that fandom, like it took a little bit for me to, I'm a comic. I'm used to trash talking. I'm used to, busting balls. And it was hard for me to at first, because I'm like, this is a guy I grew up watching. But that changed when we were on our way to MLB Network in Secaucus. And so we you gotta catch a train to Jersey. And Greg tore his hamstring. That's what knocked him out of the league. He had a brutal hamstring injury. And so, he has a little limp sometimes. And so we're trying to catch a train, and we see that the train before ours is actually there already, and we can catch that one if we run. And so I start running to catch it, and I turn back, and I realize he's behind me. And finally, I just turn and I yell, and I just go, "You stole 46 bases in a season. Pick up the damn pace." And like in that moment, like he got to the train and then he goes, "That's what I've wanted from you this whole time. Like you're a comic, bust my balls." And I was like, "All right," and we've been friends ever since.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love Greg Jeffries. He's great. He's a very inspirational guy. Some of the stuff he posts online, I really I'd like to see the Greg Jeffries pop up because hey, a lot of Met fans didn't like him for a while because the guys didn't really like him.
That article a few weeks ago was great to kind of talk about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That article made me so happy because I've talked to him about that a decent amount, and I know how much it breaks his heart. But I also know, like, I mean, if you saw when they interviewed him, he doesn't hold anything against anybody, and he has every right to. But that's just not him, you know. Even the ridiculousness that is Lenny Dykstra, where like he went on Stern and trashed a bunch of people, including Greg, and like Greg would have every right to just be like, this guy is a crazy cokehead who, you know, like who has no business talking about anybody else. And instead, he was just like, well, you know, Lenny's had his problems, and I wish him the best. And that's an amazing thing to be able to do.
No, that's very cool. All right, so this is a really tough Met question because I know my answer. All right, this is a really good one. Shea Stadium, Citi Field. Now we all love Shea, and it was a shithole. It was a dump, but it was our dump and our shithole. Or Citi Field, this glorious, massive, modernized, just piece of humanity. If you had to watch a game tomorrow, which stadium you're walking into?
Citi Field. That's not a hard question at all. As much as I have memories of Shea, what a garbage stadium. Like, we have to admit the gaudy neon players on the side, the fact that the seats didn't match. Like, what stadium seat don't match? Like, how are you not even, you want to go multicolor, go orange and blue. How are you like orange and blue, but then also green and red for no apparent reason? Like, let's also have green and red seats. Like, you watch a game in any of the various iterations of Busch Stadium, and like, you just saw so much red. It's imposing. It's the team colors. Whereas, you know, Shea's so gross. But that said, I do have 2 Shea seats at home.
Very nice.
And I have 2 Shea seats, and they are upper deck because that's what we grew up watching. My brother bought 2, and he bought 2 of the orange ones, and I was like, "That's you poser." We never sat in those.
I was gonna say, how are we gonna know where the loge and the mezzanine are if we didn't have different color seats? I'd be walking into the wrong section. I mean, come on.
I remember the orange was gold. The orange was a birthday present. Yeah, that was a special day.
Yeah. Oh, it was always just so ridiculous. Just like that stadium, and, you know, the food choices were garbage. And like now, like, there's straight up good food at a game, and, you know, and there are all kinds of options, and you can splurge and watch, like, you can watch a rainy game, which I've done, where I've been like, you know, I don't even care about the food. You go to that, I mean, they change the name of it every 3 seconds, but like whatever, the Acela or whatever it is now. But, you know, just it was like $50 for the dinner, and I was like, I'm not here to eat. I'm here to watch the game inside. Like, I just don't want to get rained on anymore. Instead of back in the day when you would have those like 3 rows with the overhang and mezzanine, and you would try to like gather under those.
Yeah, you saw the rain come. You go, thank God, I have the little bit of overhang over my head. But hey, at Citi Field, you know, now there's the unnamed porch. There's no more Pepsi porch. There's no more Coke porch or whatever it was the last 2 years. So perhaps maybe we see the Steve Hofstetter porch in the near future out in Citi Field.
Oh yeah, absolutely, the Hofstetter porch. Yeah, you buy yourself a bottle of Hofstetter. I don't know what it is. Like, it's but that's one of the things about baseball that's difficult. Whereas, like, it's hard to remember names of stadiums now because they change every couple of years. But forget stadiums. The idea of, like, I went to a Reds game, and I was telling someone about, like, I was trying to tell them where I ate because it was great, and they had no idea what I was talking about because that doesn't exist anymore. And it was like 2 seasons later. It was just like, it's just stuff changes. Stuff changes like it's a mall going out of business. Like, you ever go to like,
that's a good point.
Court?
Yeah. Well, I can go to one now, I'm sure. So
yeah.
All right. So then we said Greg Jeffries' favorite player of all time. And this is the question I ask Met fans only when they come on the show. And we've had a couple guys that have pulled some really good ones out. I mentioned Met fans love everybody. We have players that came through that never played in any other city except for New York that we love. So who is that kind of forgotten, under the radar, all-time favorite Met that only us Met fans are going to know and love right along with you?
Well, and no offense to Greg, but he was my first favorite. But like the guy that I still will say is my favorite player is Ventura, because I liked him before he came to the team, and also I respect the hell out of anyone who gets their ass beat by a guy who's 12 years older than you when he charged the mound for Nolan Ryan and still shows up to play again the next day. But I would say, yeah. So my favorite like obscure Met.
Obscure Met, like the most you could think of. I mean, I got like 5 I can rattle off the top of my head.
I can rattle off obscure Mets, but I'm trying to think of the obscure Mets I liked.
Who's a guy you rooted for in a down era? Let's like mid-90s, you know? I mean, for me, it was Joe Orsulak. I was like, Joe Orsulak could be the most dominant hitter in the league if he wanted to.
Yeah, Joe Orsulak. I mean, I actually, you know who I liked? Who, now he's just the father of someone famous, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah, there you go. No, that's a good.
He's just Patrick Mahomes' dad now. But like he was Pat Mahomes. I liked Pat Mahomes. You know, there were tons of guys like that. Like, look, I think Bobby Jones is one. I really liked Bobby Jones. It's hard to call him obscure, but I just remember Al Leiter being the only thing to watch those years when you'd be like, all right, at least we win every 5th day. You know, like there were so many guys like that. I liked Rick Reed's story. I guess I'm a pitching guy. Yeah. I just keep naming
Rick Reed was very good.
Mets pitchers.
All-star, he did very well for the team.
Yeah, and also he was a guy who, was allegedly banned from baseball for being a scab. Like that's one of the things I liked his redemption arc. I'm a fan of that kind of stuff. But I just keep thinking of like Kevin Elster. I liked Kevin Elster. I liked Kevin Elster because, and I don't know if this is even true, but when I was a kid, I was told he nicknamed himself Special. And I was like, I don't know if that's true. Hilarious.
We will ask, though. We have somebody who we will ask. So
yeah,
we'll find out.
Hey, Steve, before we let you go, great talking Mets, but I would be remiss if we didn't have you on and didn't get a little bit about the Martin grant. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So the Martin Grant is something that I founded in memory of my father. My father, Martin, passed away 5 years ago. And it started as something where the idea was to give kind of a leg up to up-and-coming comics. People who were already making a little bit of a name for themselves, but still had a day job. That's kind of who we were looking for. And this year, when COVID hit and every comedian lost the ability to work, we retooled it. And instead of giving, it had been one $10,000 grant. And instead, we decided to make 10 $1,000 grants. And it's actually grown. The support of the grant has grown so much that we have now already given out 24 of them. And it looks like we'll probably give out a couple more. And we renamed that program to the Friendly Shoulder because the idea is that, these are comics that just need a little bit to lean on. And I think it's crazy that the Martin Grant has been able to give about as much as the government has, which is embarrassing.
Now, you're doing a great job, and, we appreciate the time today. We ran out of it quick, of course, talking about the Mets, and anytime we have a fellow Mets fan in the room, we got to talk. Can't just, bouncing around different questions. So we appreciate the time today, and, and keep up the great work and keep us laughing. And, if you don't make us laugh, the Mets will do it for us at some point when we think we're about to win this 2020 World Series or whatever the heck they're going to do. And we'll turn to you for the last. But before I let you go, and we give you the floor here to give out your social media plugs, if you were going to sign for it right now, next year, Steve Hofstetter sells out Madison Square Garden, or the Mets win it in 4, sweep the World Series, and you're right there, front row at Citi Field watching. What are you signing for today?
Selling out Madison Square Garden, because if I can do that, I'm in a position to buy part of the team. So and then I can help, and then I can, actually try to sign some people. By the way, my favorite, not that I rooted for, but I think the most important, most obscure player, those nexuses where someone who was very important for such a brief period of time for the Mets, my vote would be Jason Tyner.
Jason Tyner, the man.
Yeah, Jason Tyner, the immortal Jason Tyner. Small sample, but man, what an impact!
That's
the guy who couldn't hit a ball to the outfield, but still somehow helped us.
So you could have gone with Eric Valent, but he did have a cycle against Montreal once. So you can't go with a guy like that. He obviously proved himself. He hit one out. So, all right, well, let's wrap it up here, Steve. The floor is yours, man. Tell us where we can find everything going on in your world and all the cool stuff you got going on.
Yeah, just at Steve Hofstetter on most social media. You can Google my name on, and find me on anything. If you don't want to bother spelling it, Google will correct the spelling for you. But yeah, check me out. I put new videos up almost every day on Facebook and almost every day on YouTube. So check them out.
Yeah, and that's it for another Diamond Conversations. If you want to follow us, it's at Chad EMB on Twitter. It's at Doug Barclay 17 on Twitter. And at Diamond Convo. If you didn't catch either one of us talking about it, you can find it on that Twitter as well. And if you didn't catch us now, then you can catch us on the flip side. Take care.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
Place to Be Nations, JT Rosero and Chad Campbell here. We want to let you know that we have over 24 podcasts available on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and PlaceToBeNation.com. We now offer them to you on 2 great feeds. On the Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed, we dive into topics running the gamut from today's WWE to the glory days of yesteryear and the ins and outs of the territory days. In addition to our full-length shows, we also deliver to you special pod blasts on topics old and new.
The Place to Be Nation Pop feed is a veritable treasure trove of great content. Offer tremendous shows covering the land of movies, television, life, comics, and sports, brought to you by the most knowledgeable and insightful folks in the podcast world.
You can find all these great shows, plus archives of our past podcasts from over the past 8 years as well by subscribing to both feeds on iTunes. And while you're there, be sure to rate and leave feedback as well. All of these shows, plus others, available on PlaceToBeNation.com, where we cover pro wrestling, sports, movies, comics, plus in-depth search projects, and much more. Be sure to support our site by using www.PlaceToBeNation.com/Amazon when doing your online shopping. We want to thank our friends at Boneheads Wing Bar, ProWrestlingOnly.com, and TheHistoryOfWrestling.com as well. Be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Tumblr. PlaceToBeNation.com, the only place to be in your pop